Do you remember that movie in the 2000s that had a chick that raided tombs and explored some magnificent ancient ruins? Well, you are about to learn a whole lot more about the country those ruins belong to. Fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. The Kingdom of Cambodia, commonly known as just Cambodia, is a country located in Southeast Asia, right by the Gulf of Thailand in the Pacific Ocean. Cambodia shares its borders with 3 other nations. There are, however, some disputes about those borders. Thailand claims a small hill close to a Cambodian temple in the north, and the border with Laos and Vietnam has tracts that have not been officially demarcated yet. The same happens in the sea, with overlapping claims from everybody. Luckily, the neighbors have agreed to work peacefully on resolving these issues. Its geography is for the most part surrounded by low mountains and uplands, the largest peak being 1,800 meters high. Forest covers 54% of the total area, but its most important resource is water. The presence of these rivers and this lake contributes to the economic and social progress of the kingdom. Moreover, due to Cambodia having a tropical climate, with high temperatures all year round and lots of rain, floodplains are formed, providing cultural, educational, recreational, and scenic value to humans, as well as nutrients to the soil, thus creating new habitats and recharging groundwater. These water resources are so important that the people of Cambodia celebrate a river festival every year in the capital city of Phnom Penh. In addition to this city, there are 24 provinces, and together they form the administrative borders of Cambodia. The capital holds about 2 million people, and the next most populated provinces hold about 1 million each. Adding in all the other provinces, Cambodia is home to 16 million people. It's worth noting that around 51% of the population is younger than 24 years old. In comparison, Italy, for instance, only has 21% of the population below 24 years old. Cambodia as a modern-day country came into existence in 1953, but its predecessor, the Khmer Empire, had its origin in the 800s. It was the biggest empire in Southeast Asia for hundreds of years, gaining territory across all these lands, but it saw its decline around the 1400s due to neighboring kingdoms waging war, especially the civilization that preceded modern-day Thailand, which gradually displaced the declining Khmer Empire. By the way, that is why the two countries still consider themselves rivals and, up to not long ago, arch-enemies. Though relations are largely peaceful today, people still bear a degree of enmity, which has erupted into violence when stoked by nationalist sentiments. So, get it together, you guys. Anyway, back to our timeline. It was the late 1800s, and the Khmer people were squished between these two powers, and as soon as they saw the French with their voyages of colonization, they asked for protection. So they became a protectorate, which was administered as part of the French colony of Indochina until 1953. That is the year the French agreed to give them independence in a rather peaceful way, due to not wanting to open another front in the Vietnamese War of Independence, which was also part of French Indochina. The following decades can be described as intense. Let me sum it up. Cambodia tried to maintain neutrality over its first years, but the war in Vietnam, which was still in progress with the United States as a new participant, caused a communist insurgence inside their own territory. These insurgents were called the Khmer Rouge, and they eventually took over. Those were the darkest 5 years Cambodia has ever gone through. The government tried to create a communist utopia where religion, private property, and the use of money was banned. They even destroyed and piled up cars as a symbol against the bourgeoisie. Everybody, even children, had to work on fields, and disobedience was punished with gruesome deaths, starvation, and family separations. There were around 2 million Cambodians killed in these tragic years, in a country of, at the time, only 7 million. The perpetrators, however, got too arrogant. What I mean is that they conducted raids a little too far beyond the borders, angering Vietnam, which invaded Cambodia in response and maintained a 10-year occupation. The Khmer Rouge was stopped and overthrown, and peace talks with the help of the UN, which overtook the administration of an independent state for the first time, began in the early 1990s. This marked a new beginning for Cambodia, in which they would seek to stand up and grow their economy and cultivate development after years of suffering, especially economically. In recent years, they have seen rapid economic progress, with a focus on their 2 biggest industries, textiles and tourism. So as far as Cambodia's economy, First, let's talk about trade. Top exports consist of textiles, especially knit clothing, and they account for 65% of the trade, followed by 10% for footwear and headwear. The top trade destinations are the US, representing 19% of all trade, Germany with 10%, and Japan with 8%. In the imports category, we find gold, which is odd for Cambodia due to possible corruption, but government officials claim that much of the gold is simply passing through the country on its way elsewhere. We also find textiles, especially fabric in order to make the knit clothing previously mentioned, and machinery. Top importers are Thailand with 31%, China with 25%, and Singapore with 20%. When it comes to tourism, well, you've likely already heard about Angkor Wat, which is the largest religious monument in the world by land area. It was the capital of the Khmer Empire, and thousands of visitors marvel at the architecture every year. This is Cambodia's top tourist destination, and there even is an international airport nearby, offering non-stop flights from many countries. However, the Phnom Penh airport is still the busiest in the country. Beware though if you want to visit Cambodia, because only about 50% of the network of roads and highways are hard-surfaced, so it may take some time to properly explore the country. This leads us to talk about friendship between countries, because China actually has invested in infrastructure in Cambodia and continues to do so with donations and loans. However, the top donor to Cambodia is Japan. Yes, the country that violently invaded Southeast Asian lands in World War II. In spite of all that, they remain an ally. They have donated a sum of $2 billion in total development assistance since 1992, and the two countries have worked together to improve the education system, which is weak and underfunded. Cambodia doesn't, however, have a true best friend, because its two main allies are rivals, and they can't afford to be too close to one, as it would compromise relations with the other. So, as we have seen, regardless of what might happen to it, Cambodia has proved that they can grow from it, no matter how hard the circumstances. If you like this video series and want to watch more, make sure you are subscribed, because boy do we have a lot more coming.